Let's talk about a game that surprised me, and I mean this game legitimately blew me away, because at first I was not expecting much at all. And that's not me to try and sound judgmental, like I'm trying to be an arsehole or anything like that. It's just the fact that when you hear a game called Harem Hotel, anything harem-based that I've played pretty much has almost no depth to it. So I'm not saying outside of this game it doesn't exist, I'm just saying that all the ones that I've played, it's pretty much always been that way. So basically there's a place that I go to where I look up all these sort of games and everything like that, and they're rated out of 5 stars. And so typically anything that's at least a 4 I'll check out. And when I stumbled upon this game, it had quite high ratings. I'm talking like 4.5, but not just by like 2 people, by way more than 2 people. And so I thought, okay, interesting. Well, every game that I've, gotten so far that's been, at least a 4 out of the 5 stars has been pretty decent, so may as well check this one out. And it'll either be one of the best games that I played or one of the most overrated games that I played. And I gotta say, this game easily jumped up into my top 3 favorite adult-style games ever. And so, let's talk about why. First thing I'm going to do here is read the synopsis that was, pinned out by the developer. So, here's the synopsis of the game. Reading this is why I was kind of on the fence. You've inherited... Sorry, Mike Tyson. You've inherited the Harem Hotel, a hotel where 8 beautiful women stay. Upgrade your hotel, build friendships with girls, follow their stories, and train them. Harem Hotel includes fully animated and completely uncensored lewd scenes, an array of stats and traits to build and unlock, many outfits to use, and unique characters and fetishes. So I thought, okay, well, that part intrigues me, but, in terms of how deep and meaningful everything might be, that's yet to be discovered. So, I start playing the game, and essentially it opens up a few years back where the game actually opens up where you're playing as your grandfather. Sorry, I got a bit of a cough because I'm just coming out of the the cold that I just had. So, I'm like, okay, interesting. Basically, your grandfather owned this hotel, and then after he passed away, you inherited it. And so, that's where the proper parts of the game start playing, because all the flashbacks are the prelude. You have an option to skip it, but I don't recommend it if it's your first time playing the game. So, the game opens up where you're now going to the hotel, you've now basically owned the place, and yeah, I met the receptionist, a nice woman named Ellen, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. What else we got? I then get to meet the maid, who's also the cook, this very, skinny, really nice looking woman. I just realized I'm wearing a shirt here of Marceline. The person in question kind of looks like this. You're probably wondering, oh, but not the ears, right? Yes, the ears, because she's an elf. And I'm like, huh? Wait, there's fantasy stuff in this game? That's unexpected. I wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for here? Against that idea, I just wasn't expecting it, because there was no mention of that at all in the synopsis. And so I thought, okay, interesting. Well, we got elves. Okay, it's one of those games. Let's roll with it. So it's set in modern-ish time, maybe a little bit futuristic. It's set in an alternate timeline in reality, obviously, because, you got elves roaming around. Not only do you have elves, you also have an android in this game. I will get to that later. So what I really loved about this game was its pacing. Now, the game is made with the REMP engine, and as I mentioned before, I do really love that engine because it's very user-friendly, and it's just easy to use. So, the game, in terms of its, style and genre, well, basically I would consider this to be a mid-fantasy style game. There's other things in there that make it like that too, but I don't really want to mention that because I don't want to ruin other plot elements, but yeah, it's really cool to have a 300-year-old elf in the game, and at first I just thought, is this just going to be a gimmick, just, to satisfy other people's elf fetishes? Because I'll be honest, I don't have an elf fetish. Or at least I didn't when I started playing the game. Lord of the Rings did nothing for me. The Hobbit, fuck those movies, but this game, after I came out of it, I'm like, god damn it, I really need to find someone willing to dress up as an elf now and put on a maid outfit. I didn't even fucking like maid outfits into this game. You see what you motherfuckers have done to me? So, that was really cool, and to learn all the background stories of these characters that are in this hotel was pretty neat as well. And so, God, where to even begin? Let's start with the way that the game goes into with its style. So, I've already mentioned the genre, and yes, it is a harem-based sort of game, and in regards to if it's being like a sandbox or linear, it is a sandbox game. So as I mentioned before, it's on your loop, so at different times of the day will determine where the characters are, and where you can go and, determine, like, what it is you can do with them. Now, if you did see my review on Mythic Manor and you went out and, played that and enjoyed it, this is a game that I think you would really enjoy as well, probably more, just my opinion. So, the interesting thing with this game as well is that, and for me personally, if you've also seen my review I did on acting lessons, I thought that this game was on par with that, but strangely enough it goes a different direction, but they both aim to do the same thing. They aim to make you care about characters with a, dark past and, basically broken people or characters. So, in acting lessons, it was a game that was, went in one direction. So it wasn't on a loop. So you went one direction, and it did have multiple endings, and so you could choose which way you wanted to go, but you were still going one way. The other thing that it did as well was that it was a non-harem game, and it went with a more realistic sort of, photorealistic sort of style, whereas Harem Hotel is obviously harem. It's not linear. It's, as I mentioned, it's like on, your whole loop sort of setting. And the graphical style is basically the same as Mythic Manor. So it's got your Japanese CGI style. So if you've ever played a modern Final Fantasy game, it's basically, it goes that style. Which I thought worked perfectly with this game, to be honest. So, excuse me, lunch. So, okay. In regards to the characters, and I guess maybe I'll talk about the pacing with the characters, because as you progress a little bit throughout the game with other characters, others enter the hotel. And so I like the fact that they introduce characters in a really great way in regards to the pacing. So there's already, like, you've got your receptionist obviously already at the hotel, and the maid. It makes sense. Now, in regards to how you can progress in other events, you need money, and so basically every time you get someone living at the hotel, they will pay you money in rent. I will admit, though, I entered a cheat code into a terminal in the game just to give me $1 million, so... And I still had a lot of fun with that. And yeah, I know I didn't play the game in the purest form, but again, the developer wouldn't have added the option to enter that if, they didn't want it to be used in some way. So, I did play the game without using that, but then later on I decided, fuck it, I'll enter it. So when the game starts, yeah, you got your receptionist, the maid, and another nerdy girl that's already living there, who's quite hostile towards you at first, but of course that changes. This is now how I'll mention what all the girls are like. So you've got, I pronounce the name as Carly, I guess, but anyway. She's the nerdy one. But she's that kind of nerdy one who doesn't actually realize that she's smoking fucking hot. So she's the kind that, wears the glasses and stuff like that. She's got, shoulder length, black hair. But what I liked about it too is that she can wear the big nerdy glasses and actually not look like a fucking radical feminist. Because that basically would just completely ruin everything for me. But she's also the kind of one that doesn't exactly know why people see her in that way, like, the kind that she's like, oh, I'm not hot, I'm just the girl next door. Have you seen what you look like? You're the girl next door if we lived next door to the porn set. She is so hot, I would fuck holes through her until she was Swiss cheese. No bullshit. So, she seems to be the most popular one, based on what I can tell from, the voting polls on the developer's Patreon page. So, anyway, I was part there. Besides her, you've got, Lynn, who's, again, the maid and the elf. She's the skinny one. You've got another girl who joins the hotel called Ashley. She's also, like, a really petite one who gets very emotionally attached to people, and she's a little hyperactive as well. You get these other twins then into the place. Technically, they're clones, but as I mentioned, in your character's room, there's a little computer, And if you go to that, there's a little section on the computer where you can enter codes, and so one of which did give me basically all the money I'll ever need in the game. Another one turns these two clones from clones to being identical twins, which made more sense to me. And the odd thing is that I could understand if they were initially clones to try and get around like any taboo incest kind of stuff, just basically due to, I don't know, like getting the game removed from a certain platform or something like that. Like, I don't know what the reason was, but there wasn't any incest, at least not in this current version. Maybe it'll change in the future, but either way, I don't know, for me, clones, I'm like, I know this is a universe that involves elves, but clones, yeah, identical twins, like, let's just roll with that, okay? That makes more sense to me. And I think that's actually meant to be the way it's actually meant to go in terms of canon, because the code for that is called True Story, so, I don't know. Alright, let's get through this before I start rambling on. But yes, there is a lot of other great characters. And I mentioned there's an android. I thought that character was going to be so boring and was just only going to be there solely for the purpose of basically people with their robot fetishes. Not even the case. And I'll admit, I did put off her storyline for a little while, because the game, again, it doesn't necessarily have a big overlapping main storyline. It's really each individual character, so all the women, it's, what storyline is to them. But what's interesting as well is that, unlike other harem games, you tend to just do what you want to do with the other women, and then they don't even know that you're involved with the other women. This game is not like that. They're very much aware, and they're very much okay with it. Some not so much at first, but, you do kind of like, work your way around that eventually, in a way that I thought would actually be a little bit, misogynist or contrived in some way, but it's not. It really works well, and the way that your character talks to the other women, he talks to them, like, on their level, as if they're actually a person. There's never a moment where he's, like, really talking down to them, unless maybe it's, like, during a bondage session. However, all that stuff's consensual anyway, so it's like, yeah, cool. That's interesting. The other thing I really liked as well is that a lot of the characters' story arcs do intertwine with other characters' story arcs. So it's not like you can just focus on one of them and then progress in their story arc, and then once you reach the end version of that, you can go to another one. Excuse me for a second, I just need to edit out a part here where I blow my nose. Sorry about that, I'm still on the outskirts of recovering from a cold. So, like I was saying, there might be a part where you get to like a certain dead end with a character's story arc, and in order to progress further with it, you need to go and progress to a certain level with another character, because these two characters as well will have something, to do with each other in regards to the storyline. And so I thought that was really cool as well, that the developer actually wrote in a way for all these characters to interact with each other, so it doesn't just feel like very one-sided, like, okay, here's me, and now I'm doing the stuff with this girl, now I'm doing the stuff with the other girl. No, it's all very much involved, it's all intertwined and interlaced, and I thought it was really well done. And in regards to the characters' background stories, like, it opens up where there's things which I thought was maybe just like a throwaway gimmick. For example, there's a character that has like a fetish for, like, dressing up as a cat, and I thought, alright, that's just some kinky fetish. Then you learn something about her background, and I'm like, wow, that's actually really fucking relevant to something that happened to her as a child. I realize the way I phrase that may make it sound a little bit sus. No, not like that. It's actually kind of like a bit of a tearjerker moment when you find out what it is. Another character has a knife that she carries around with her a lot. And I thought, oh, okay, she's just known as being a little bit, crazy and prone to being emotionally unstable. And so I thought, the knife just, made sense to have that with a character of that nature. Turns out also not the case. You learn something about her background, and that knife becomes a little bit more relevant to her character and her story arc than I ever would have thought. Even the android character, who, as I mentioned, thought was just there to satisfy someone else's robot fetish, and maybe it is, but there's so much more meaning to it. And I just thought, oh, okay, well, how relevant could she be to the story? I didn't think it was going to be, all that relevant. And then I thought, if you've ever played the video game, it's a PS4 exclusive, but of course it'll work on a PS5 if you have one, the game Detroit Become Human. That's a game where basically androids were becoming sentient, and then, they were, fighting for equality and all that kind of stuff. And, at least for me, playing that game, I very much cared a lot about, the androids in the game, and what their struggles were, and what, they were all about. And that's basically what this character which is the android, is all about as well. And you get to name the character. I just named her Anne, like short for android, because of my lack of creativity. So that's why I keep referring to her as the android, because she doesn't have a set name. The only set names is your character's name, and the the only not set names is your character and the android. But, learning about this android as to even why she was created, and she was created by your grandfather. The thing, too, is that she is a sex bot. That's basically the main reason why they're created in this universe. They're legally not advertised as that, but that is the main reason why people buy them. However, your character's grandfather wanted one as just for company. And so, learning about that as well, I'm telling you, there were so many moments where I'm like, fight the feels, fight the feels. And you'd think that that would ruin the vibe of basically all the lewd content. Again, not the case. And there is so much fucking lewd content in this game. I mean, yeah, you got your sex, but then there's also all the other just like, sexual related content. Pretty much if you go to Pornhub, every single category that you can find on Pornhub is in this fucking game. And again, each character has their own kind of, things that they're into. So, and also with a certain level of comfortableness when it comes to engaging in sex. And so there's even characters which I thought would be quite, boring and stuff like that as well, including a character that was introduced called Autumn, and she's quite the religious type, and she believes in a religion that's not actually a real religion, it's a made-up one for the game. And I thought that was actually pretty interesting, but you can tell it's obviously inspired by real-life religions that are pulled together. And so, even learning about that was interesting, and this is relevant too, back to, I'm sorry about jumping back and forth, but at least you're getting all the information. Elves in this game, or universe, are slaves. They didn't have rights till I think it was about 30 years prior to when you begin, and even then it's only very basic rights, but they're still considered to be, not first-class citizens, put it that way. So, the other thing I thought was interesting too is that a lot of times people start to get very fucking preachy in any kind of game or TV show or movie or whatever it is, where they'll try and reference real life stuff and basically try and bash you over the head with it and go, no, care about the things I care about in real life by caring about what it is in this game. And so I didn't really feel like there was any of that because, of course you could reference, the elves to when black people were slaves in real life, X amount of years ago. But it never really feels like they're trying to give a message about that specifically. It very much feels like it's about elves and, the fictitious struggles of elves. But of course you can draw parallels because, every time you create slavery in a fictitious setting, you can of course draw parallels to slavery in real life from anywhere. Because it wasn't just black people that were slaves, you had, Spartans even had slaves, and of course I don't want to start getting political about this, I just want to talk about the game. But anyway, I thought that was really cool that you really do feel like you can live inside this world and everything they talk about feels relevant to the world that you're living in without them basically stepping out and going, haha, hey, you see this thing in the real world? Yeah. We've basically, going to preach about that in this world so that you care about it. And anyway, every time they do that, I just really start feeling unimmersed and annoyed. If you want to care about certain things, fine, but don't try and make everyone care about that, and definitely don't do it in some weaseling kind of way where you put that message in a very preachy way in a fictitious setting. So, as for the religious girl, her religion states that, all men are created equally and stuff like that, and of course that Bible in this fictitious setting was written before elves were discovered, and so, of course, it divided out the religion where they don't see elves as actual people, and so, anyway, the girl, Autumn, of course, she believes that, the message basically meant any people basically capable of conscious thought, and so, I thought it was really interesting, and the game's yet incomplete, so I can only imagine what it is that's going to be available in the future. What's really great about this game is the use of balance. So, everything is just so well balanced. The use of sex, there is so much of it, by the way. Holy crap, there is so much. And all of it feels not, forced. Not to make a rape joke or anything like that, but I mean, it's not like, it feels naturally paced. And also relevant to everything that's going on with the characters. So, other than that, the dialogue as well is really well written, and there's, like I said, so many moments where like, yeah, I ended up caring about the characters way more than I thought I would. And each character as well has their own kind of, obviously they got their own background, but they've also got a uniqueness to them. So basically, the game does seem to favour the more athletic and maybe just a little bit of curvy kind of women, so there's no obese style in there, so if that's something that you're into, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying you're not going to be getting that within this game. So they've basically gone with the more, basically what you would think of as being, like, hot in terms of what Hollywood be presenting as being, like, hot is what you'd get in this game. And again, nothing wrong with that either, I'm just letting people know what to expect. Let's see. In terms of the gameplay, yeah, pretty great as well. Like, I never felt like I got lost. There was always something for me to do and places to explore, new character arcs and things like that. In regards to the music, I don't think you really need the music on. It doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. It's kind of just there for the sake of being there. So I've switched off, all that, including the audio and, excuse me. So I don't know, I just didn't think it was really necessary to be included. So you can play the game and listen to your favorite songs on iTunes if you want, or if there's some other kind of music that you think would be more suited to the game you're playing, if you're one of those people that kind of really wants to immerse yourself into the world and have a music that matches the vibe. Well, I don't know, whatever it is that you feel would be necessary for that, then you can just play that, that's fine. Now, as for bugs and any other issues, I only encountered one through the whole game. That was it, just one. And that was basically when I had to go visit a character, Ashley, in her bedroom. There was a particular bug that if I went to spend time with her at a beach, the moment that scene ended, I'd get this thing where the game would just crash. So I presume that's been reported and will be fixed at some point. I don't know how the hell it came about, but either way, one bug is still pretty great when you consider how big and how much content this game has to offer. The game does monitor the amount of hours you've been playing the game as well. 60 hours I invested into it before I reached the end of every character's story arc, so that was pretty cool. So just quickly for all the other characters that you get, so you've got the skinny petite elf, super cute, and I really love her character as well, because she's, was a slave, and basically all I wanted to do throughout the game was just give her the life that she was never offered. Other than that, so yes, like I said, you've also got the twins. You've got Ashley, who's the crazy petite one. You've got the religious one. You've got another girl who's basically, she was like the cam girl, and there's also a reason as to why she got into that. It's not just basically an exhibitionism kind of fetish. There's more to it than meets the eye, as it is with every character. Let's see, you've got the receptionist Ellen, then you've got, the nerdy girl Carly, big nice tits too, just saying. If you're a guy and you like big tits, like most of us do, you'll probably like this. Although, don't get me wrong, I could easily do with a B cup as well, it just depends on, what body it's attached to. Goddamn, I don't really know what else to say about, a lot of the other characters. There's also a non-canon character. Again, you can discover this by entering it into the computer in the character's bedroom, which brings a succubus into the story. Again, it's all non-canon, and the reason why it's definitely non-disputably non-canon is because the way that she enters the place and the way that she may, say, introduce another character, well, that character may have already been introduced in a particular, in a completely different way, so just the amount of contradictions and everything like that is what considers it to be non-canon. Even the developer himself says to consider it non-canon, so, fair enough. But if you want to see some little interesting scenes like that, then, it's an option, is my point. So, I could ramble about this game for hours on end, but I think I've already spent way too much time on this review rambling about this game, and there's still more content to be available later on. I cannot fucking wait, honestly. This game is just so incredible, just so well written, just so well thought out. Great balance of everything between, the character development, the interactions with them, the sex scenes, and then also all the meaningful dialogue. Yeah, I don't really know how this guy did it, but he did, and I 100% respect it. So I very much encourage anyone to go check this game out. If you're basically based on everything I've said, if you think this is something for you, well, hey, please, go ahead. Anyway, so if I talk about it any further, I feel like I would just be either ruining or basically spoiling other things that people could enjoy by experiencing the game for themselves, or just, talking about things that would basically be unnecessary. But, all in all, thank you very much for watching if you actually did make it to the end without getting bored. I hope you have a great day. Anyway, have a good one. Go play some games.